Hello, I'm Karen Butler, Principal Researcher at the Law and Justice Foundation of New South Wales, and this short presentation provides an overview of our rapid scoping review of outcome frameworks for legal assistance services. A clear articulation of the purpose of a framework is a crucial first step in its development. The purpose of a framework may be service improvement or evaluation, planning, resource aligning, or performance monitoring. Performance monitoring frameworks are often confused with outcome frameworks, but they differ not only by purpose but by design. An obvious difference is that performance monitoring frameworks have the addition of key performance targets. None of the frameworks reviewed for this report were designed specifically for performance monitoring or resource aligning, and many of the benefits of a service improvement framework can be lost if the framework is used in that way. The report this presentation is based on focuses on service improvement or evaluation, can also be used for planning purposes. The successful use of outcome frameworks as part of an outcomes-based approach to service design and continuous improvement has many benefits, and outcomes-based approaches to decision-making have been gaining popularity and use among non-profits, governments, and social services. This approach places the needs of people at the centre and allows services and governments to tailor its policy and service delivery to those needs while being flexible and responsive to changing needs and circumstances. It can lead to continuous improvements by building evidence about what works and why. It can drive innovation to achieve even better outcomes. And shared or sector-wide frameworks can focus the efforts of government agencies and NGOs on what is most important in their sector. Countless approaches to framework development exist with numerous interchangeable terms, which can make understanding framework development difficult, and participants may be working at cross purposes with different definitions or understanding of the purpose of the framework. It would be particularly important that any shared frameworks developed by the sector spend some time aligning terminology and definition. The approach to developing a shared sector-wide framework is necessarily different from frameworks to measure program or organisational outcomes. A shared sector-wide framework must take a higher level view. To accommodate the diverse ways in which services are provided to clients across the sector, a high level of abstraction must be used. And what we mean by abstraction is the level of complexity by which a system is viewed. The higher the level, the less detail. The lower the level, the more detail. If the level of abstraction is too low, if it's too specific and detailed, the outcomes and measures may not have wide application, but will still be of value at program or organisational level. If it's too high or too general, it will be difficult to operationalise and can lack meaning and utility. Development of a shared framework will benefit from a bottom-up or a co-design approach. A bottom-up approach allows practitioners and frontline organisations to specify outcomes important to them and draws upon the depth of experience and expertise of the sector. Inexpertly developed or understood frameworks risk misuse. For instance, without a clear purpose of the framework, outcomes may be relied upon to measure performance or when considering resource allocation. A service improvement framework is not fit for this purpose. Specific limitations for a service improvement framework worth mentioning include the adage often wrongly attributed to Einstein, which states, "Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted." Many important and critical aspects of a program cannot be meaningfully quantified or reliably measured. For instance, soft outcomes are difficult to reliably measure. Long-term outcomes may be lost to follow-up, and other outcomes defy measurement entirely. Please see our report for full definitions of the different types of outcomes. So choosing appropriate outcomes to measure is crucial, not least because of the unintended consequences that may follow. And this leads to another principle, often touted as the most important law in measurement science and policy, It's known as Goodhart's law, and it states when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. In practice, when outputs or outcomes are used to report performance to funders, those measures may end up inadvertently driving a program's work. And this is true across a variety of measures, as the choice of specific indicators can implicitly define what is and what is not important. And where an organisation's performance is measured by these, this can unintentionally influence decisions. An example of this would be where a service is assessed on the number of a specific type of service it provides. They might inadvertently favour providing those services over other equally appropriate services. And the last pitfall that I will mention is that indicators are imperfect measures. They provide only an indication that something has happened. The ability to prove the program has achieved an outcome is limited by the assumptions made when the indicator is chosen. Sufficiently robust evidence should be used to make those assumptions. Indicators cannot support assertions of causality on their own and should not be used in that way without the required evidence. Other findings include, at the time of this review, the use of outcome frameworks in the legal assistance sector was patchy and remains largely in its infancy nationally and internationally. However, there are relevant examples emerging. There is also very little information in the reviewed literature on the amount of resources required to develop, test, refine and implement an outcomes framework, particularly sector-wide frameworks. Literature regarding the methodology or development of such endeavours is scarce, but stresses that you should expect a relatively long time horizon for developing, testing and refining outcome measurement systems. In fact, the authors of that work assert that agencies will require 2 to 4 years from the time the idea of outcome measurement is first introduced to the point of having meaningful outcomes data. Those authors also comment on technical resources required in the way of highly experienced evaluators or researchers to guide the development of the framework, training of in-house staff of agencies, and ongoing task-specific and content-specific technical assistance in implementation, even after initial in-house training has been provided. Our report also includes 5 examples of outcome frameworks used in the legal assistance sector, which are particularly relevant to the outcomes discussion. We know there are other excellent examples, but these were chosen as a good cross-selection of Australian and international examples, which were publicly available at the time of the review. Our scoping review report is an easily digestible report. It's short and covers methodology and working definitions, framework development, shared outcome frameworks, and benefits and limitations of frameworks. We also review selected frameworks from the legal assistance sector and include a list of all reviewed literature. You can find this resource and other foundation research on our new research hub, ljfresearchhub.au, or on the main foundation website, lawfoundation.net.au. If you have any questions about this report or on outcomes in general, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.